My colleague Tanaka found the perfect house, or so he thought. It was a traditional wooden home in Kyoto's residential district. 2 stories, beautiful garden, rent so cheap it seemed impossible. The realtor was nervous when showing it. She kept glancing at the upstairs window, even though we were on the ground floor. When Tanaka asked about the previous tenant, he just said they moved on. The first night, Tanaka heard footsteps above his bedroom. Slow, deliberate, back and forth across the wooden floor. He went upstairs to check. Nothing, just empty rooms and dust particles dancing in the moonlight. But the floorboards were warm under his bare feet. The second night, the footsteps came down the stairs, one by one, creaking each step. They stopped right outside his bedroom door. Tanaka held his breath, listening to the silence on the other side. Then a soft knock. 3 taps, polite, patient. He didn't answer. The knocking stopped. By the third night, Tanaka was ready to leave. He packed his bags and called his friends to help him move out. But when they arrived, the front door wouldn't open. Not locked, just stuck. They pushed together, all 4 of them. The door wouldn't budge even a centimeter. The windows, same thing. Sealed shut, as if the house itself was holding them closed. That's when they heard it, laughter from upstairs. Soft, delighted, like a child who just won a game. Tanaka's friends left through the back garden fence. They told him to climb over too, but Tanaka couldn't move his leg. Something was holding his ankle. He looked down and saw nothing, just felt the cold pressure around his legs, pulling him back inside. The realtor found him 3 days later, sitting calmly at the kitchen table, drinking tea. When she asked if he wanted to break the lease, he just smiled. "I don't want to leave anymore," he said. "This house, it needs me." That was 6 months ago. Tanaka still lives there, but when I call him, someone else always answers the phone. Yuki thought she'd struck gold when she found the apartment in Shibuya. Modern building, great location, and completely renovated. The landlord mentioned it had been empty for 2 years, but renovations take time, right? The apartment was perfect, except for one thing. Every wall in the bedroom was covered with mirrors. Floor to ceiling, no gaps, no breaks. When Yuki asked the landlord about removing them, he got strained. His face went pale and he shook his head quickly. "The mirrors stay," he said. That's the rule. Yuki figured she could get used to it. Maybe hang some curtains. The first week was actually fine. She covered most of the mirrors with sheets and blankets, but she left one uncovered, getting ready in the morning. That's when she started noticing the delay. She'd raise her hand and her reflection would follow a second later. Just barely noticeable at first, but it got worse. Soon her reflection was moving completely out of sync. While Yuki brushed her teeth, her reflection combed its hair. When she turned to leave, her reflection stayed facing forward. One morning, Yuki woke up and pulled down all the sheets at once. She wanted to confront whatever was happening, but when she looked around the room, she wasn't alone. Every mirror showed a different version of her. One was sleeping, another was crying, another was screaming silently, and in the mirror directly across from her bed, her reflection was pointing at something behind her. Yuki spun around, nothing there, but when she looked back at the mirror, she wasn't in it anymore. Just an empty bedroom reflected back at her. She waved her hands frantically, jumped up and down. The mirror showed nothing. That's when she understood. The mirrors weren't reflecting her anymore. They were reflecting the previous tenant. And somewhere, in some other mirror, in some other room, Yuki was trapped, watching someone else live in her reflection. When Hiroshi inherited his grandmother's house in rural Gifu, he thought he'd won the lottery. A traditional farmhouse with a thatched roof surrounded by rice fields, perfect for his work-from-home lifestyle. The neighbors seemed friendly enough when he moved in. An elderly couple from the house next door brought him vegetables, fresh daikon radishes and cabbage from their garden. "We're so glad someone's finally living in your grandmother's house again," they said. "It's been so lonely without her." Hiroshi was touched by their kindness. Every few days they'd bring more food. Homemade miso soup, fresh fish from the river, rice balls wrapped in seaweed. They always came at exactly 6 p.m., just as the sun was setting. After a month, Hiroshi decided to visit them to say thank you. He walked to the house next door and knocked. No answer. He peered through the window. Empty rooms, dust everywhere, no furniture. The house looked like it had been abandoned for years. Hiroshi asked the postman about the elderly couple. The postman looked confused. What elderly couple? He asked. That house has been empty since the Yamadas died 15 years ago. That evening at 6 p.m., right on schedule, there was a knock at Hiroshi's door. The elderly couple stood there with their usual warm smile. We brought you some fresh vegetables, the woman said. Hiroshi stared at them, his heart pounding. You're the Yamadas, aren't you? He whispered. The couple nodded pleasantly. Of course we are, the man said. We've been taking care of your grandmother's house while she was away, and now we're taking care of you. Hiroshi wanted to run, but something about their faces, they looked so genuinely happy to see, so grateful that he was there. We've been so lonely, the woman said softly. It's nice to have someone to take care of again. Hiroshi still lives in his grandmother's house. The Yamadas still bring him food every evening at 6 p.m. He stopped questioning it. After all, who else would take care of him out here? And the food always tastes like love. Sakura and her husband found their dream apartment in a high-rise building in Osaka. Modern, clean, affordable. The floor plan showed 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a living area. But when they moved in, there was an extra room. A small space behind the kitchen that wasn't on any blueprint. The landlord seemed surprised when they mentioned it. An extra room, he said, checking his paperwork. That's not supposed to be there. But it was there. A perfect little room with tatami mats and a single window. Sakura decided to use it as a reading. She put a cushion by the window and would spend hours there with her book. The room felt peaceful, like it had been waiting for her specifically. But her husband refused to enter. Something about the room made him uncomfortable, he said. It feels wrong, like it doesn't belong here. Sakura spent more and more time in the room. She'd wake up in the morning and go straight there. Sometimes her husband would find her still sitting by the window at midnight, just staring out at nothing. The window faced the building's air shaft. There was nothing to see except concrete wall. When he asked what she was looking at, she'd smile dreamily. The garden, she'd say, isn't it beautiful? One day her husband came home and couldn't find Sakura anywhere. He checked every room in the apartment, every closet, every corner. Finally, reluctantly, he went to the extra room. It was empty, just tatami mats and that single window. But Sakura's book was still there, open on the floor. And through the window, instead of the air shaft, he could see a beautiful garden. Cherry trees in full bloom, a small pond, stone lantern. And sitting by the pond, reading peacefully, she looked up at the window and waved. He pressed his hands against the glass and called her name. But she couldn't hear him. The building manager says the apartment only has 2 bedrooms. He's never heard of an extra room. But sometimes late at night, residents report seeing a woman reading by a window that shouldn't exist. Kenji bought the house because it came with a detailed instruction manual. 20 pages of handwritten notes from the previous owner. How to work the old boiler, which floorboards creak, when to trim the garden. But mixed in with the practical advice were stranger instructions. Never go into the basement after 11 p.m. Always keep the kitchen window open, even in winter. If you hear knocking from inside the wall, ignore it. Kenji thought the old man was just eccentric, but the price was too good to pass up. He followed the rules anyway. Better safe than sorry. For the first month, everything was fine. The house was quiet, comfortable, exactly what he'd wanted. Then one night, Kenji heard knocking from inside the bedroom wall. Soft at first, then louder. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, pause. He remembered the rule, ignore it. So he put in earplugs and went to sleep. The knocking stopped. A few weeks later, his girlfriend stayed over. She thought the rules were ridiculous. Why keep the kitchen window open in December? She complained. We're wasting so much money on heating. Before Kenji could stop her, she slammed the window shut. That night, they woke to the sound of scratching. Something was clawing at the kitchen window from the inside. Long, desperate scrapes against the glass. Kenji ran to the kitchen and threw the window open. The scratching stopped immediately. His girlfriend left the next morning. She said the house gave her the... After that, Kenji followed the rules religiously. Until one night when he was working late, he lost track of time and found himself in the basement at 11:30 p.m. He realized his mistake immediately and headed for the stairs. But the stairs weren't there anymore. just a solid concrete wall where the staircase used to be. Kenji felt along the walls frantically, looking for any way out. That's when he found the additional page. More instructions hidden behind the water heater. If you break any of the rules, the house will keep you. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to the owner before me. The house needs someone to follow its rules. If you're reading this, it means you broke one too. Welcome home. The real estate listing for that house went up again last month. It comes with a detailed instruction manual, now 43 pages long.